Long before special effects could recreate a battle, the only way to capture the raw truth of war was to film it. In 1941, with the world holding its breath, a British film crew did exactly that. We go back to that pivotal year for a remarkable picture, Target for Tonight. This is not a story with a cast of actors. The men you see on screen, from the pilots to the ground crew, were all active-duty Royal Air Force servicemen. They are playing themselves, reenacting the quiet professionalism and knightly courage of RAF Bomber Command. The film follows the crew of a Wellington bomber, call sign F for Freddy, as they undertake a perilous nighttime raid deep into Nazi Germany. What makes this film so extraordinary is that it was produced by the British government's own Crown Film Unit. It was a powerful message of defiance, designed to show the world, and especially America, that Britain was taking the fight to the enemy. It was so effective and authentic that it even won an honorary Academy Award. This isn't just a movie. It's a genuine document from one of history's most critical moments. Join the crew of F for Freddy and see what it was truly like on a Target for Tonight.
How's they coming along?
Well, not too bad. Quarter day's negative.
Rightio. Get them along to the squadron leader as soon as they're done.
Alright. Thanks for the last sortie, sir.
Thank you. What are they like?
Very good, sir.
Thank you very much, that's fine. This is pretty good. I really think we have got something this time. Now, would you get me the, files and file fields?
Certainly, sir.
You know, this is most interesting. They've done a most tremendous amount here. It's a colossal installation now. Let's have a look at that file.
Remember, we saw it about 3 months ago. Quite a small little place, nothing much happening. The wood, here we are. You can see just small sidings and empty wood packed in no traffic, no barges, and nothing. But now, look at it. Quite different. Great extended sidings, oil tanks along a row by this railway line, pipelines coming out of the wood where there are more installations coming down to these barges in the river. It's very big. Certainly is a peach of a target, isn't it, sir? It's just what the CNC must have. Now look, if you'll write the analysis, I'll get on with the intelligence reports for you.
Certainly, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning. The Met Officer confirms the good weather forecast for tonight, sir. Right? Then we'll go ahead with our maximum effort. Controller, warn all groups to carry out Operation K tonight.
Yes, sir.
The thing here I thought, sir.
Yes.
Our command to all groups. Target for tonight. Maximum effort tonight. Town 434, Germany. Target, naval docks and barracks.
Let's go and have a look at the map.
Controller, get me AOC 33. That's the spot, sir. Yeah. You're through to AOC 33 group, sir. Thank you, Mason. I've just been looking at the photographs of Freihausen. Confirm exactly what we thought. I want you to divert one squadron on this target tonight. An experienced squadron which will go in low. That's it. I'll send you the photographs immediately. Thank you.
Give me all stations.
Yes, sir. Stand by all stations for the AOC. I'm putting you through now.
4 Street 4. That's Keel, isn't it?
Yes, sir. You're through, sir.
Maximum effort tonight on Keel. Objective, naval docks and barracks. I want every available aircraft on this target. Have you got that? Right. Militant, provide one squadron to attack the new oil storage and tankers at Freihausen. You'll get full details, photographs, and intelligence. That's all.
Right, sir. Get into the intelligence room, please. Half the wing commander come in.
Yes, sir.
And the intelligence room, group captain wants you. Yes, sir. Freihausen, sir? It's on the Rhine, sir.
Old man, Jimmy.
Yes, sir? It's on the right bank, about 15 miles north of Freiburg, in the Black Forest. What I want is target information. The latest target maps. Any recent photographs showing the new oil tanks and storage. Briefing is at 40 and 30 hours. Got it? Very good, sir. That's our objective, briefing at 2:30. That? What's it got that Ham hasn't got? Well, that's a good thing. I haven't been off the ground for a week.
It's all very well for you. I had a party tonight.
Well, that's saved your headache. Thank you very much. It's a fine thing. That's the second time entering much has been washed out. You were a better navigator, you'd go oftener. Listen, Jack, who was it didn't know whether over Hanover or Hampton Court?
That's a joke.
Joke, boy, all right. Hello, Bobby. Here's your order. Thank you. All right, since the night, fellas. How do you know? Oh, I'll get over it, Jen.
Hey, Conley, what do it today?
Wait a minute, I'll tell you. Joe Williams Harden in the channel, folks, 2-1. Gelsenkirchen, 7-1. Hamburg and Cologne, 8-1. All others, 10. I'll have a 10 on the channel, folks. Okay, you're on. You can say it's a reasonable target to spot, seeing that we've got the moonlight and the water landmarks. But anyway, as I said, the two best men first to the inheritors.
In that case, I'll send in Phillips and Anderson first. They're my two best.
Yes, that'll do very well. The rest had better have AG. These tanks look as though they've got heavy concrete tops. And it's no good trying to draw their power. They won't open up on you until they're sure you'll firm the target.
No, I don't suppose they will, sir. There's bound to be an awful lot of stuff around there. There always is around that type of target. It's mostly light track, that.
I think we'd better have a delayed action bomb in each bomb load. They won't be able to get near the place after that.
Very good, sir.
You better send O'Reilly last to make sure. He's mad enough for anything.
Yes, very good, sir.
What's up? Morning, Corporal. Here's today's orders. A and B flights to be operational. C for Charlie and R for Robert in sentries. Rest 4 500s and 1,000 pounder.
What time take off, sir?
Around 7:30.
Okay.
Oh, and there's a camera on you for Uncle. That'll mean a flash bomb.
Very good.
What's the target, sir? Just me behind that. Have those barrels for extra Freddy got over here? I got over that. Okay. Which turret do these gun barrels go, Jimmy? Front or rear? They're for the rear turret, Phil. I'll be down in a minute. Okay. 131.6, 19.6. 131.5, 18.5. Wind is 10 miles an hour, 309 degrees. Visibility 12 miles, 3,000 kilometers cloud at 3,000 feet. Right? Come in. Morning, Wilson. Good morning, sir. You get the information about tonight's target. Good. Have you got fishing dope on it, do you think? Oh, I think plate over the first shot. Good. Right, well, I'll see you at the briefing this afternoon then. Yes, sir. Okay. That's right. Lift it up. Right. Sit down, please. You're on to a new target tonight, Fryhausen. He's up at time we're through with it. It's not as funny as you seem to think, Sergeant called on. Happens to be an extremely important target. There's one thing first, crew of effort. Dixon, you're captain. I want you to take leave while this operated tonight, not Catford. Bad luck, Catford. So the crew will be Dixon, Willett, McPherson, Lee, Bell, and Harrison. The rest are unchanged. Now for your actual objective. As you will see from your target map, it looks like an unimportant railway siding. In actual fact, as you will see from photographs, it's the site of a large oil dump. It's very well hidden amongst the trees, but there shouldn't be very much difficulty in finding the position. And your job tonight, my lads, is to find it and destroy it. Now it's going to be to Wilson to describe the target to you. Now I'll face more afterward. About the lights. This is your target. Oil storage at my house. There are indications of considerable storage in the wood, here and here. But the principal feature is the accumulation of oil wagons on the sidings and barges on the river. The river, you will see from your target map, runs away to the north when it gets off the picture. The canal runs from east to west about 3 miles. I suggest that you make your bombing run parallel to the canal from east to west, and that will bring you straight up to the target. Other landmarks are the railway to the south of the canal with a bridge over the river half a mile south of the target. You can get your target maps from the clerk outside the door afterwards. Any questions? Would it be okay to go in low tonight, sir? I'm coming to that. Phillips and Anderson, you're full of incenders tonight. You'll take off a quarter of an hour before everybody else, and your job is to definitely locate the target and set the wood on fire. Right, sir. Take your time about it, because the others will be following you up. There's no reason for the rest of you to bomb the first fire that you come to. You must definitely locate the target before you bomb. After all, even Anderson can make mistakes. O'Reilly, you will go in last and make sure. Okay, I'll do that, sir. Good man, but remember the trees are very high around the target. Method of attack for the rest of you, I leave to individual captains. As soon as the Hun knows that you've found the target, you'll get the usual plentiful supply of flak. There's no good expecting an easy passage, because you won't get one. Remember, don't risk the aircraft unnecessarily. Your main object is to bomb the target, and then to bring your aircraft back safe there. What's the omnibus got there? Not much, sir. You'll find your bomb load written up there. One of the bombs in each aircraft is a delayed action. That is, with the exception of C and R. You don't need to worry about that. It's being taken care of in the section. Right, what's the weatherman got to tell us this time?
Well, the weather should be favourable. Cloud increasing across the North Sea, but with breaks in it. Good visibility. Navigational winds northwest to 30 miles an hour at all heights. Rift of fog at base aerodrome towards dawn. Shots you can see upstairs afterwards.
Rainfall. How about signals? Wireless operators will get the call sign for tonight from me in my office. And don't forget, as you're well over the other side, you can usually get your bearing from Val if you're stuck.
That all, sir?
Yes, I guess so.
Just there.
Here. Well, chaps, no doubt about it, we've got a good one for tonight. It should be fairly easy to find, and with those water landmarks and the light, you should manage a good run up. Go in and flatten it, and good luck to you. I'll go along and get the contact and take it together. Okay. Can I have a look at the gun, sir? Alright, but don't be late. Okay, sir, I'll be in the crew on time. Where's the Scotch navigator? Alright, sir. We'll go along and have a look at that course. Alright, just the man I want. You have me on the town. Listen, I can't pay my mint bill, little and you. Well, neither can I. Oh, alright. Give me up the trip. Alright. You would remember that. Hey! Some cops pinched my boot. Come on, pull your finger out. Where's my boot? Thank you. We had the heck of a park. There must be a big cone up that way, so here. Right. That shouldn't let it worry. Oh, I see. And we'll probably see our other lads giving the channel ports a bashing. But on the whole, we'll probably have a pretty clear run right into the target. I'll give you a good long run up, and you can have plenty of time to see the target. There'll be no need for a dummy run. Yes, okay. All from it for Freddy here. I'm here anyway. Here's Dad. I'm here, Skipper. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Well, that's the change anyway. Get straight up. Oh my God, where's my helmet? What the devil's my helmet? Ah, they locked. Right, that up. Connect port, that 1.4.
Or then we come to it. No, not there. Not it. On top. I paused it. Hey, Bob calling. Are you receiving me? Over.
Papa. Answering. I'm receiving you well. Over.
I paused it. Okay.
Tap off. Historic calling tap off. May we take up and take off? May we take up and take off? Over.
I paused it. Hello, T-Charlie. Pardon, swing. Yes, you may taxi out and take off. Over. B for Charlie, airborne craft. 19 hours, 35 minutes. Anchor, 150. Hello, control, part now. C Charlie took off 1935. Over.
All Robert tomorrow, 1938. All Robert, 1938. The apple calling on the flare path. Leeway taxi out. Take off. Over. Hello, Papa. Hey, Pan calling. They will take off. Over. Diameter, all calling. Be built for 1946. Over. Freddie calling. You take off.
Hello, Freddie. Yes, you may take off. Off you go. Over. Okay, chaps, here we go. Here for Freddie, all 1951, sir. There you go.
Hello, rear gunner. Can you hear me?
I'm okay, Skipper.
Hello, front gunner. Can you hear me?
Okay, Skipper.
Hello, mate. Gone to sleep yet?
No, I have not.
Hello, operator. Everything okay?
Well, it seems to be all here, sir.
Hello, second pilot. Ready to do some oil pumping? That's all the second pilot's for. Well, that's all right. Right, Houseman. Here we come. I can't find where we are. We're coming to Carlsborough. Famous for its breweries, you know. Good old Mac. Let's go down and smell his bread. Hello, everybody. Let me know if you see anything.
Hello, Skip. Search light perfect, the starboard quarter.
Right, so there is. The natives appear hostile. Hello, Skipper. The target's about 50 miles upriver. I suggest we make a sweep and approach it down the river. We'll see the canal better then. Over to you. Okay. I can see the canal is 25 feet. Okay, I'll turn around and check up. Any signs of life?
Not a thing, Skip.
I wonder where Andy is. He was getting lighted in.
There go the incendiaries!
Alarm! Achtung! Hey, right settle! I am Fred Rebel! Heute, 31 Grad, I am Freddie! Oh, I, Raymond going out. Get right on the target. I can see it hiding. Okay, stand by. I'm going in a glide. Can I start the fake, Skipper? Yes, okay. Give the $1,000 loss, mate. Bomb doors open. Bomb doors open. Left, left. Steady. Right. Steady. Steady at that. Bomb's gone. I got a bullseye with the last one. Good man. Beg of not so cigar. Oh, I think I'll just have a sandwich. Hello, operator. Will you send the target bomb signal? Okay, sir. Okay, Jeff, don't worry. Everything's all right. Anybody heard? The wireless operator stopped it. Badly? No, I don't think so. Only in the leg. Okay, you take her over, Willow. It seems to be okay. Make height, but don't flog her. An interrupted message map for Predator. This all we've got? Yes, sir. It suddenly stopped after giving the target bomb signal. Oh, all right. Well, how's it going? Steve for Charlie and Arthur Robert are on their way back, sir. Several other aircraft to bomb the target. Oh, good. Better mark it for Freddy over the target. Very good. Hello, seen this? Not so good? Oh. Might the wireless trailers helped. Let's hope so. I can't get nothing on with that, sir. It's dead. Let me try, sir. No, you keep quiet. We'll manage without it.
I say, skipper, here a moment. What's the trouble? Oil pressure dropping on the port engine and I can't make any height. Losing any? No, but I can't make any. Alright, I'll take over. You go back and look after the wireless operator. Nothing more on it for Freddie, I'm afraid, sir. Freddie is getting a bit late. How's the weather holding? Not too good, I think, but I felt pilot. Hello, Fairpath. Control calling. How's the weather, please? Over. Hello, Control. Path Ernestry. Visibility is now down to 500 yards. The mist is thickening. Over. I was afraid of that. Hello, Skipper. I've got a sight. We're about halfway to Harwich. Okay, if I can keep her from losing any more heart, then Bob's your uncle. Don't forget about our balloons, Mac. Don't worry, I'll not forget the balloons. And how's the invalid? Oh, he's fine. But feeling awful cold. It's a shock, I expect. I had the same when I fell off my bike. Oh well, sir. They're all down now, except for Freddy, of course. Alright. Call up the observer corps and see if they can give us a line on him. Yes, alright, sir. And tell all aerodromes to be prepared to light up immediately in case Wellington comes over. Yeah, right. That, gentlemen, is good old England, and I must say I'm glad to see it. Do you see what I see, Skipper? What do you see, my young Scottish friend? Fog. Dirty, yellow, stinking fog. There's Tom. Come on, let's get out and have a look at the weather. Get a breather at the same time. Hell's bell, just look at this muck. We'll fix and get some move on. Probably got engine trouble, of course, Tom. Wait a minute, Tom. In there, Paul. Let them all go, Bomber, stand still. Hit one all right. Must be a Freddy in that case, huh? I'll go straight down to the tap part. Right now. Oh, I got to get up. Okay, trouble. Pay attention, everybody. We're at the aerodrome, but I can see practically nothing. Port engine is very round. We could make a bit of height and jump out, or we could have a stab at landing. Let's try it, sir. I'd go in and land, sir. Try a landing, sir. Have a crack at it, sir. I'm all for landing. Okay, keep your fingers crossed. Coming in now, sir. Right, put the floodlight on. Quick left. Right, sir. Will it down, fly down? Go and get the ambulance, will you? The operator's cockpit. Come in, Dixon. I hear you made a nice landing. I hope I haven't kept you waiting, sir. Good Lord, no. Try to sit down. Well, how'd you get on? Well, we did a little attack.
We were over the target at 23:45. Bombs were dropped at 23:53. And the first four bombs, my plane fell short of it to get, but the last one was a direct hit.
Yeah, that was the big one. Yes, there was a smasher right onto it.
Course they hit of a great big cloud, buckets of smoke. Visible
50 miles away.
90 I should say. What colour?
Darkish red with black smoke.
That sounds like oil, right? I'm afraid I didn't see very much. I was rather busy at the time. Right. Well, that seems to be all. Good luck. Good night. Good night. Group intelligence, please. Intelligence Military speaking. Tonight's operations. The Vickers reached and heavily bombed. Large fires and explosions were seen. All our aircraft returned. I'll send you details in the morning. Good night.
The course of World War II was governed by massive air power from the very start, and the heavy bomber became the dominant weapon in a new form of total war. The most potent Allied bomber in the European conflict was the British Lancaster.
It was an aircraft that would see you through.
Flying at night, Lancasters pounded the major cities of Nazi Germany into a mass of twisted metal and smoking rubble.
It was truly a wonderful airplane and a major contributor to the victory in the Second World War.
The cost was enormous. Thousands died on the ground and in the air. Of more than 7,000 Lancasters built, almost half were lost.
Watch your height. I'm watching everything. Okay. How many searchlights would you call them? Too many, I reckon. Why, God, I've never seen anything like this before. Neither have I. Do the pint. Keep your eyes peeled. Yeah.
The bomber first appeared during World War I. These fragile biplanes made of wooden canvas were unable to carry heavy bomb loads or do much damage, but they left a deep impression on the military designers and planners. During the 1920s and early 1930s, European governments became convinced that bombers would dominate any future war. Yet Britain was slow to modernize its air force, and many of its aircraft designs were obsolete before they left the drawing board. Germany did not make the same mistake. In 1933, Adolf Hitler came to power, determined to create a new German superstate, the Third Reich. He had once begun a huge rearmament program. Hitler created a modern air force. Its chief weapon was to be the bomber. Within a few short years, Germany was openly preparing for war. The British government had realized the impending danger and launched an urgent program to re-equip the Royal Air Force. They turned to aircraft designers like Roy Chadwick. He had joined the Avro company in 1911 as a draftsman and steadily worked his way to the top. Chadwick was a visionary who combined the precision of an engineer with the eye of an artist.
He was tall and slender, and I remember him in dark overcoats when in his young days, and white silk scarf he would have knotted. He had big brown eyes and an olive face and dark hair, And he was elegant. He liked kind of elegant things, and I think that is translated into his machines.
Roy Chadwick had a passion for his work and never stopped worrying about how to improve his designs.
It was winter, and the curtains would be drawn. He was sitting in the room after his evening meal, was quietly there with the Manchester Evening News, and he would fold it over and I'd see he'd do the crossword puzzle. And then I might go to say goodnight, Daddy, and give him a kiss, and I'd see all round the edges of the Manchester Evening News all the calculations. He was doing two things at once.
The ministry wanted an aircraft which would carry up to 8,000 pounds of bombs, fly round trips of 2,000 miles, and do it all with only 2 engines. It was a very tall order which could have defeated a lesser talent, but Roy Chadwick rose to the challenge.
I asked him once, how do you design an aeroplane, Daddy? And he said, well, I think of all the parts first, and then I sit down to do the design.
Chadwick designed his bomber around a massively strong central section in the shape of a cross. It was formed by the 2 wing spars bolted at right angles to a pair of girders, forming the roof of a huge bomb bay. After months of painstaking work, the plans were ready. Every single component had been designed and drawn, down to the last nut and bolt. Roy Chadwick named his bomber in honor of Avro's hometown, Manchester. In the summer of 1937, the Air Ministry placed an urgent order for 200 Manchesters. Even though the prototype had not yet been tested, it was a huge gamble. But everybody now expected a war. It was simply a matter of when. A growing mood of panic swept the country. Londoners began building aero shelters, gas masks were issued, and the public were instructed on what to do.
If you are provided with a steel shelter and have not erected it, do so at once. Always keep your gas mask handy in the house. When you hear the warning signal, take cover at once.
In September 1939, the fragile peace collapsed. Britain was at war with Germany. As Europe was overrun, cities like Warsaw and Rotterdam were devastated by German bombers. Then, in September 1940, Hitler finally unleashed his bombers on London. The Blitz had begun, and Londoners found themselves in the front line.
There was a lot of shrapnel coming down, pitter-pattering on the roof and all that kind of thing, and it was scary. I mean, incendiary bombs dropped in our garden. My best pal was there with us at the time, and it was then that we decided we wanted to join up. That particular night, actually.
The German attack soon spread to other British cities. In one devastating raid, the central of Coventry was almost completely wiped out. The aim was to terrify and demoralize the civilian population into accepting the defeat. The effect was to unite them in a single-minded quest for revenge. And that meant bombing German cities.
I used to come home on leave and see all the people going down into the underground shelters in London, you know, sleeping down there night after night, and I used to think to myself, you know, this is terrible. But I used to get a sense of pride then. Well, thank God we're hitting back.
More bombers was the slogan. Bombers began to appear, not in dozens, but in hundreds. And Germany began to get what was coming to her. For the first time, we carried the war into the Nazi camp.
But in the early stages of the war, the bombing campaign caused little damage. Most of the aircraft were too small to carry an effective bomb load. And without electronic navigation equipment, the bombers' crews often missed their targets by many miles.
Bomber Command was simply incapable of hitting any targets, much less precision targets. They probably killed more cows and blew up more trees and damaging any portion of the German landscape that mattered. They thought that they were waging a precision bombing campaign. They simply weren't.
If the bombing campaign was to be effective, Britain urgently needed two things: accurate navigation aids and effective long-range heavy bomber.
Of considerable aid to the Royal Air Force is the big twin-engine bomber known as the Manchester. They carry a heavy bomb load at a high speed, thanks to the Rolls-Royce Vulture engines, and they have a powerful defensive armament.
The hopes were high as Roy Chadwick's Manchester finally entered service in Bomber Command, but behind the brave words, the truth was much less encouraging. Although Chadwick's airframe design was sound, the problem lay with the complex and unreliable Vulture engines. The plane would struggle to get airborne with a full bomb load and regularly failed in mid-flight.
It just did not work. And they couldn't get the heights and anything, and it was a horrible plane.
The official verdict was finally delivered from the Air Ministry. Avro would complete the initial order for 200 Manchesters and then switch to building a rival design. For Roy Chadwick, it was a bitter blow, but he would not be beaten. He knew that his bomber could still be a winner. Somehow he had to prove it, and prove it fast. The decision by the British Air Ministry to abandon production of the Avro Manchester bomber forced Roy Chadwick to rethink its design. He saw that what it needed was a bigger set of wings and a lot more power. He decided to remove the two unreliable Vulture engines in favor of 4 Merlin engines. The Merlin was an outstanding design, which already powered the famous Spitfire and Hurricane fighters of the RAF. After persuading the Air Ministry to give him one last chance, Chadwick went back to the drawing board.
In the tracing office, they work with pencil and ruler, but without this work, the giant bomber could not begin to take shape.
He told everybody, keep it simple. He always said, if it looks right, it is right.
The enlarged wings and their new engines were fitted, extra fuel tanks were installed, and the aircraft was rolled out into the light of day.
He said to me this day, would you like to come with me? We're going to test a new machine. Of course, I went. Captain Sam Brown, the test pilot, took it up. It was wonderful to see it overhead. And he maneuvered it round, all banking and turning. I'd never seen such a big machine. Then he came back and landed, and everybody at one accord rushed across the field, and someone called up to him, how did it go, Sam? And he said, oh, it was marvellous. So light on the controls, so easy to handle. We got back into the car and were driving home. And I remember actually saying to my father, well, Daddy, you must be very pleased. And he said, well, I am, darling. But in this business, no one can afford to rest on their laurels.
The flight certificate, duly signed by Roy Chadwick, carried a new name for the test aircraft: the Lancaster. The machine suddenly looked and felt right. The problems that had plagued the Manchester were quickly forgotten, as the glowing reports of the test pilots confirmed Roy Chadwick's faith in his design.
This is the weapon upon which the Allies based tremendous hopes. To the people who built the Lancasters, each doing his own task to the best of his ability, their success came as no surprise.
Soon, the Lancaster bomber would become a household name. For one man, it would become the key to victory. Early in 1942, Air Marshal Sir Arthur Harris was appointed Commander-in-Chief of Britain's Bomber Command. He was an aggressive leader with a single-minded determination to destroy the German war machine.
Pressing your attack. If you individually succeed, you will have delivered the most devastating blow against the very vitals of the enemy. Let him have it right on the chin. Send that message to all groups and stations.
Bomber Harris did a marvellous job. He was brought in when Bomber Command was at a real low ebb.
Harris knew that the accurate bombing of strategic targets was almost impossible. In a controversial decision, he supported plans to adopt the German policy of area bombing. Like Hitler's Luftwaffe, the RAF would saturate major centers of population with bombs. And its chief weapon, which Harris called the shining sword in the hands of Bomber Command, would be the Lancaster.
And here's the bomb rack, which can open up with 8 tons of trouble for Hitler. It's 33 feet long. When it's released its load, another 2 or 3 acres of Germany will never be the same again.
The Lancaster soon became the undisputed heavyweight champion of the British bomber force. As it proved its worth in combat, fresh orders poured into the Avro factories.
We got a new aircraft, and on the side, it was HWH. And at that time, there was a film called Hell's a Poppin'. Right, okay, lads, this is Hell's a Poppin'. So I got some yellow paint, I climbed onto the wing and I painted Hell's a Poppin' all the way up. Hell's a Poppin' it was. It was a lucky aircraft for us.
For many, the Lancaster quickly became far more than just a machine. It was alive, and so all its male crew. The Lanc was definitely a lady.
It was love at first sight. There she was, and she was standing up on these long legs, and a black beauty. Funnily enough, I didn't feel that there was any rivalry with the rest of the crew. I felt she was my girlfriend, and we all felt that it was our girlfriend,
It took a crew of 7 to fly a Lancaster: the pilot, flight engineer, navigator, bomb aimer, wireless operator, and 2 gunners.
The most forward position was the bomb aimer, who was laying down in the bomb position. And if necessary, he manned the front gun. And the skipper was on the port side. Next to him was the flight engineer's position. Then you had the curtains, and the navigator sat behind those, so he could have his lights on his charts. The wireless operator was behind him. And then you went back over the main spar, and then you had the mid-upper gunner, and then you had the tail gunner. If any one of you didn't do your job, well, that was it. The whole lot of you went.
You live and sleep and eat together. You go out together. They rely on you and you rely on them.
The pilot in Bomber Command was always the skipper, irrespective of rank. And even if the group captain, the CO of the squadron, flew with me, I was in charge.
You weren't just a crew of 7. You'd got the ground crew. The ground crew were the boys who got that aircraft so they would bring you back. And we had a terrific ground crew we had. We'd do anything for them, and they'd do anything for us.
The ground staff, who watched and waited back at the base, played a vital role in supporting as the bomber crews risked their lives over enemy territory. In the control tower, they anxiously plotted the course of each raid. They only knew too well that with every Lancaster posted as missing, another 7 men would not be coming back that night.
The Avro Lancaster, most powerful and efficient bomber in the world, and one of the most important war-winning weapons yet devised by the United Nations. The Lancaster is a name that is writing war history.
Although Chadwick had designed the Lancaster for mass production, it was still a monumental task. Each aircraft contained some 55,000 separate parts, involving roughly 500,000 engineering operations.
He had designed the Lancaster in 5 sections so that it could be made in all the different factories and then brought together. And with this simplification, they were able to put it together quickly and simply, and so much so that at the height, I think it was 1943, 150 Lancasters a month were being produced.
Meet a few of the ordinary, hard-working people devoted to this important task. Angela Roberts, a capstan operator. Maisie Rafferty at a press. Dobson Hind and his mate, Joan Evans, riveting. Every pilot of a Lancaster is confident that he's handling an aircraft into which has gone not only superb designing, but the proud craftsmanship of an experienced army of workers.
It's everything you wanted in a heavy bomber. It had got the strength, the speed, the maneuverability. Its weight carrying capacity was out of this world.
It took eventually 6 tons more than it had been designed for. Sir Arthur Harris said it was the camel that never knew the last straw.
In our training, we used to cut 2 engines on one side, and you could stand the Lancaster on its wingtip with 2 engines cut on one side. Marvellous aircraft.
I think the Lancaster was the finest bomber in the European theater of operations. It was truly a wonderful airplane and a major contributor to the victory in the Second World War.
By 1943, the Allies were equipped with enough heavy bombers to launch an all-out offensive against Nazi Germany. It was to be a 24-hour round-the-clock operation, the Americans bombing by day, the British by night. Electronic navigation systems were introduced, and the bombing became more accurate. Radio direction finders and radar scanners were installed in selected aircraft, and their hand-picked crews were given special training as pathfinders. It all came together at the end of July 1943, when a series of heavy raids on the city of Hamburg demonstrated the devastating effect of area bombing. Thousands died in the inferno as huge areas of the city were utterly destroyed. Area bombing had not broken the British resolve to fight, but Arthur Harris still remained firmly convinced that this was the only way to defeat Nazi Germany. They sowed the wind, he said. Now they are going to reap the whirlwind. As the scale of the operation steadily increased, so did the weight of bombs falling on Germany.
One of the great contributions of the Lancaster in the Second World War is its capacity to carry extraordinarily large bombs. The power of those weapons were such, when combined with accuracy, that you could really wreck big targets.
For 12 months, British scientists were working day and night on one of the most remarkable engineering feats of the war, the 12,000-pounder. And here it is, over 5.5 tons of concentrated destruction, the biggest bomb yet known in air warfare.
Lancasters eventually carried no less than 22,000 pounds. The 10-ton Grand Slam bomb. But most raids involved more conventional loads. The crews knew in advance what bombs they would be carrying. What remained a mystery was the night's intended target. One clue was the fuel load.
If they said, oh, it's only 1150 gallons, you think, it's a short one. But normally it was 2154, that was full tanks. So that was a long one.
As dusk was falling, the air crews would go to their briefing. Only then would their target be revealed.
When you entered, of course, there was a big curtain up over the whole map of Europe, you see. And that curtain was only drawn back when the CO walked in to tell you what the target was for that particular night.
There'd be a huge wall map with a piece of ribbon marking the route that you'd be taking to the target. The first thing everybody looked at was where the end of the ribbon was.
You now know precisely the next item on that list. Go.
Now the tension began steadily mounting as 0 hour approached.
I used to go to NAFI and always write my last letter. Obviously you can't post it, and it goes in your locker. And if you shouldn't return, that letter would be taken out of your locker and sent to the family.
The average number of ops, missions, or whatever you want to call them, we call them ops, was 7.5. After you did over 7.5, you were living on somebody else's borrowed time. You had 1 week's leave every 6. There was a block of 6 of you, and anybody on that got the chop or didn't come back. The name was taken off the list. Everybody moves up one underneath. The new crew go to the bottom. So sometimes, in a heavy time, you would go 3 weeks and you'd get another week's leave because 3 of the buds above you got the chop.
A great friend of mine, Sergeant Ellsworthy, he was on his 28th trip and he didn't come back.
Ellsworthy's fiancée had already lost a previous boyfriend who had also been a pilot. Now, she turned to Laurie for consolation, and the friendship soon blossomed into a romance. But Laurie's superstitious crew did not approve of the match.
So I had to drop her. The crew said, "You will drop her, Skip." She was a jinx. Poor girl. Very nice looking girl, too.
But for the skipper of a Lancaster in love, as in war, the welfare of his crew always came first. They had to believe their luck would hold as they set off for Germany.
You were at the beginning of an adventure. You were at the beginning of something dangerous. You were at the beginning of fear, and you would feel fear. And anyone who said they didn't feel fear were liars or nuts.
As the Lancaster crews were driven out of their aircraft, each man only knew too well how dangerous their mission was. Superstition and ritual could not guarantee a safe return. But then again, perhaps they could.
I always wore a green scarf with little Chinese markings on them, which my sister had given me. She says, "You might need this scarf."
I got married 3 days before D-Day. I had a silk stocking from the wife. I tied that round my neck. I never took that silk stocking off until I'd finished ops. I showered with it. I did everything. It was my lucky charm, was that silk stocking.
Well, 2 of the crews from the squadron were given dolls by a young girl who used to knit them as lucky mascots.
I carried that doll on all the trips I did. I swear blind that that mascot brought me back.
You talk about the smell of an aircraft. It had that smell of comfort, and that puts it all in one word. That was home from home.
Once you get into your seat, of course, you check all your various meters, pumps, gauges. Once we're all satisfied that everything's in working order, we get the order to move, and then we move off. had to synchronize your engines. But once you had them synchronized, they just purred. Music to the ears.
The sound of 4 Merlins is something you wish you is beautiful.
Weighed down with the bombs and fuel, the heavy bombers would line up, waiting their turn to thunder down the runway and take to the air.
This is the moment of no return. This is where the decision's been made. This is where you're in her world, and suddenly it all seems to happen. You've got a full bomb bay, and you've got full power, and suddenly she's let go. You know, I mean, that moment is unbelievable. And you roar down the runway, and all you can hear is the noise, and it's a beautiful noise. You've got 1,400 yards to lift about 14,000 pounds. It starts to seem that she's going to lose the game against gravity. But just after halfway, you feel that gentle bounce, and then another gentle bounce. And suddenly, thump, and you're weightless, you're airborne. It's moments like that she tells you what she's all about. And she's just magnificent, just magnificent. She is not it is magnificent, she.
And now, as our Lancaster takes to its element, think again of the importance of every item in its construction. The successful accomplishment of the job it has been assigned to may depend on one of the smallest parts. The lives of its crew, too.
You felt safe in a Lanc somehow. When all around you's going mad, you're somewhere safe. You always thought, if anything happens, it'll happen to the other bloke, not to you.
We were going to do a full tour. We weren't going to get shot down. That happened to other people. We weren't going to get shot down, no.
It's always somebody else that gets it, never you, until you get it.
As the bomber formation reached the enemy coast, the mission entered its most dangerous phase. Ahead lay the batteries of deadly anti-aircraft guns and the night fighters of the Luftwaffe. But the only sound that reached the crew members was the reassuring drone of the Merlin engines.
You had this sort of rhythmic sound of the Merlins there, you know, and somehow that was warm and comforting. And you weren't thinking then, oh, will we ever get there and get back again? Because you had utter confidence in her.
You just felt we're going into it now, and everybody alert. I used to pass orders round. Gunners, keep your eyes skinned.
Isolated in his turret, the rear gunner had barely enough room to move. Most attacks came from the rear, and he was often the first casualty.
It was a vulnerable position, I can't deny that, but not one you could shy away from. That's the job you were there to do, you did it.
Tail-in Charlie, as we called him, he was the fall guy. I think there were more casualties with rear gunners than any of the other crew members.
As they reached the target, the bombers had to fly through a dense barrage of exploding shells from the German flak batteries.
I would say it takes a lot to make me afraid, but I was scared. Really scared at times. Frightened to death. My God, this is it. This is my time coming. I've only had 19 years, so I'm on the chop.
You are frightened, you are scared, and you just hope that you will come back.
You had a lot of other things to think about than fear. And I must say that over the target, it was exciting. And excitement was over fear then.
Bombing was his right, Skipper. Target's in sight. I'm ready for the bombing run. And then it's all quiet in the aircraft because he is in sole charge and you do exactly what he says.
You actually go out there to hit a target. The fact that civilians may be killed, you've got to blank that out. It's the most important thing was to get the correct wind speed and direction.
It's sheer hell, anything from about 15 to 30 seconds. Seems like 15 to 30 hours.
And under your breath, you're saying, for God's sake, drop the bloody things.
Steady.
Get rid of these bombs now. Just get them away.
You just go up like this. It's amazing. I mean, you go up like from one floor to the 10th floor in the car park. You boom!
And as soon as he says, bomb's gone, I throw the aircraft over and get the hell out of there.
The first thing is to hang on for grim death.
At last, they could take evasive action to avoid the fighters and head for home.
You'd see a flash, 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 flash. Oh, quite clearly. And it's remarkable how fast an explosion travels. It goes out very, very quickly, 100 yards, 200 yards each way.
Going back, because I was at the back, I always felt if somebody would want to grab you, in the darkness, they want to grab you back for what you've done.
Back in England, other hands were reaching out, willing the Lancasters to return in the safety of their home base.
They were so close to us that they were almost brothers as well. They wanted us to come back. Because they have this long piece of string and they would let you go. They'd bring you back again, So you were tied to them.
But for the pilot and his crew, the long night was not over yet. German fighters still prowled the skies over Europe, waiting for the moment to attack. And the bombers was still a very long way from home.
The first bombers have dropped their incendiaries and ringed the target. Each speck of light a blazing German building. Easy enough to realize the catastrophe, the concentrated chaos that is overwhelming the city below.
As they set course for home, the crew could not let down their guard for a second. German night fighters continued to attack the bombers relentlessly all the way across occupied Europe.
See the flames and you watch the parachutes coming out. I can remember my skipper used to shout at us and say, "Pay attention, this could be you next."
The gunner suddenly called out, "There's a Ju-88 coming in, skipper." I said, "Okay, give me your orders as soon as you can, what to do." But he's in charge then. And he said, "Prepare to port, prepare to dive port, prepare to fly dive port, prepare for dive." And as he said that, we were hit. And he also fired at that time. As I put the aircraft over to go port down, I saw the tracer go underneath me. Then I went into a screaming dive to port. And at the same time, of course, there were screams from the rear gunner and the mid-upper gunner. They'd both been hit. I said to the flight engineer, "Bill, give me a hand with this control column." Eventually, I got out of the dive. I was down to about 6,000 feet then. And of course, I relaxed and whipped over again into another dive, you see. So it's the same way. We pulled out at about 2,000 feet, and immediately I saw a bit of cloud, and I dived into it.
The fighter had vanished, but the Lancaster was badly damaged and almost impossible to control. That part of the wing was missing. The fuselage was riddled with holes, and both gunners were seriously wounded.
I asked my navigator to set a course. I said, "I can't turn to starboard at all, because I had full right rudder on and full control column like this." And that's how we were flying back. All the time I was drifting slowly to port.
After 2 hours of fighting with the controls, they reached the English coast and prepared for an emergency landing.
The scary part was, are the wheels going to come down? Because we didn't know whether the hydraulics were working, you see. And it was then I said to the crew, "If any of you want to jump now," the gunners are staying with me. I had no choice. They said, "Don't worry, Skip. We're staying with you." I thought the best thing to do so she doesn't flip over is to land at a faster speed. You just sat back and thought, you know, Godfathers, we've done it.
You get out and you pat it and say, thanks. Right, you'll say a piece of metal's lifeless. It is lifeless. But when it's put together with lots of other pieces of metal as a lank, it's alive. It's just asleep, waiting for the next night.
But the Lancaster was not immortal, and its next trip could always prove to be its last, as it was for so many other crew members. The odds of them surviving a full tour of 30 operations were very low.
You go to bed, and then when you wake up, you find that the opposite beds 7 are empty, and you may see the adjutant coming in emptying the lockers, and you know then that that particular crew didn't make it back. We just didn't see them again, and you saw these empty bunks. Well, they are. And then we all lost friends, perhaps on other squadrons. I lost 2 very good friends. I often miss them.
50% of bomber air crew were killed. And if you add the training accidents and people who lost training, it works out roughly about 6 out of every 10.
And in Germany, the cost was even higher. Hundreds of thousands were killed or made homeless as the nation, which had once seemed invincible, was steadily reduced to rubble.
No matter how messy the bomber offensive was, it was absolutely essential portion of winning of the war. Without the strategic bombing offensive, one can project an Allied victory, but maybe at the cost of another 2 or 3 million lives of Allied soldiers, and perhaps the war continuing into 1946.
But after the war, the destruction of Germanic cities became a controversial issue, and an episode which many preferred to forget. Today, there are few memorials to the men of the Bomber Command.
As far as I'm concerned, we had every right to bomb these places. In view of what Hitler not only done to Britain, what he'd done to Warsaw, Rotterdam, well, wherever he invaded, they went in and destroyed everything they could.
After the war was finished, we used to go on trips to have a look at damage that was done, you know, Cologne and all those places. Much the same as we suffered over in this country, obviously. But even then, that you looked at it and you thought, was all that necessary? Was there not another way of sorting this out?
But Air Marshal Sir Arthur Harris has no doubts about the bombing policy, or about which aircraft made it possible. Writing to Roy Chadwick, he said, "Without your genius and your effort, we would not have prevailed. The Lancaster was the greatest single factor in winning the war."
We've always got to have a designer before we can have a pilot. The man who contributes something like the Lancaster. That's an enormous thing. And that must be the job satisfaction to end all job satisfactions, mustn't it? And that lives forever. My young nephews don't say, my uncle was in the Air Force. They say, my uncle was on Lancs. That's Roy's tribute.
But the Lancaster could never have played its part in a victory without the thousands of brave young men who fought and died in the skies over Germany.
There's a hell of a lot of lads who've paid for my privilege to still be alive today. A lot of young men have paid the price, the ultimate sacrifice, so that I've got children, I've got grandchildren. I'm very, very lucky. I really am. very, very lucky.
I volunteered and became a messenger boy in the ARP, and that was before the war started, and the people used to laugh at us with dropping our bags of flour in the middle of the road and shunting people out of their houses. And I lost my father, so I have a mother and brother and sister. And when the war started, of course, I'd be seeing them down into the air raid shelters and then go off on my rusty bike and wheel around the houses doing my messenger job. So I suppose I was very much into the war effort then. And it was, like a lot of things subsequently, I suppose, exciting and a bit frightening. I mean, going around the streets with your old bike and bits of shrapnel dropping around, I suppose, was a prelude to something else, really. But that was my sort of entry into the feeling of the war, certainly. Well, not really. I suppose it was a sort of devil-may-care bit, and the RAF boys seemed to be in my sort of image, and I wanted to do those things with the scarf flying around the neck and so on, rather than digging trenches, I guess. So really it seemed to be horses for courses for me. I never thought twice about Army, Navy or Air Force. But by the time I'd got to volunteering, I mean, one thing was perfectly clear in my mind, regardless of any feelings about those earlier bombings I mentioned. It was clear in my mind that we had a fellow and a Reich who were stealing, invading every country, and they had concentration camps, and they were dealing with atrocities, and there was only one answer, and that was to get in when you could and do something about it. And my ideas were quite formulated then in that way, certainly more than when I was 14. Well, I remember it as clearly as daylight, and I can remember how I felt. And I felt, as I just said, so far as previous encounters were concerned, they were just limited to snapshots and photos and things. And yet there was still something there. And you could even feel that there was something more than a machine. But I was up at OTU in Kinloss in Scotland, and some Lancasters came over from somewhere south, and they were going to the north of Norway for some naval targets. And they put down with us, I think probably to refuel, because going on a bit of a journey. And they stayed with us overnight. And this particular Lanc was behind the mess and on dispersal, very close. And knowing what I'd thought about, I really had to get to her as quickly as possible. I went over and there's no doubt, it sounded a bit balmy, but it was love at first sight. She was absolutely fantastic. And she was far more than I'd ever seen in these pictures, which, as I said, were gliding through the sky and so on. Because there she was, and she seemed enormous. She was standing up on these long legs, you know, and a black beauty. And you could sense it. I mean, the motors weren't going, but you could sense that she herself, even without the Merlins, was powerful, big and powerful, and she could do any job, it seemed. And I suppose I likened it to a sleeping beauty, I suppose, who needed the kiss of a Merlin to make her burst into life or into our lives or something like that. But we were then on the threshold, and I think perhaps that made it even more evocative. I think we were at OTU, which was the training unit before you went on to heavy conversion. So you finished with your twin engines there. And so we hadn't been on any 4-engine. And then once you had the short period at heavy conversion, you were on to Lanc. So she was just around the corner. So that moment is one that'll stick with me for always. Yes, it wasn't true, but it was my first girlfriend. In fact, it was true, I think, because to a certain extent, you see, let's take an average person, you get 3, 4, 5 girlfriends, perhaps, it's the nature of life, and not very often does it happen that you get the first one and she's the one for life. And so you get several girlfriends. But she was my first girlfriend because she was the first one that really meant everything. She seemed to have everything that I wanted at that time. I don't mean I wanted X, Y, Z out of a human girl. It's just that around that time, with the Air Force, with the war, with going into the Air Force, with going up in a plane and so on, she got all this to offer. And to me, going back to the feeling of a human aura anyway, yes, she was my girlfriend. And I take her and I took her as my girlfriend. And funnily enough, I didn't feel that there was any rivalry with the rest of the crew. I felt she was my girlfriend, and we all felt that it was our girlfriend, And I suppose that's an extension of the fantastic spirit you had in the crew. But she was my first girlfriend. Two things about the regulations and how, and this was part of the fun of being on the squadron, if you can call it fun, and there was fun, as well as all the serious side. And that was when we used to, after we'd had our briefing, we'd go out and get ourselves togged up in all these bloody great things and boots and everything, and then get in the lorry, and away it would go. And there was this precious moment when we used to go through the gates, and there was the service police in their hut. And of course, they were all bastards, and we all hated them, you see. And there they were out there. And the one time they allowed this thing to go by the board, we all had our gear on. Of course, we had the top of our battle dresses there. And in here, because it was handy if you came down in the sea, you always had your aircrew whistle. So it's next to your mouth to whistle for your position. So you had this ready. And every time we went past the hut on the way to ops, and they knew we were going to ops, and they knew they didn't want to be in our position. And when we went past, we all of us blasted these things and all gave them this, which you dare do when you were back on the coast. I'm not doing. And of course, they, for their part, who would have been, what do you say, Yaman? But they stood to attention and saluted. And they went past and they saluted, and we gave them 2 fingers. And to my mind, that epitomised the sort of feeling in a drone. Really, at the harsh end of it, the military police. And at the other end of it, what the drone was all about. And for that moment, we respected each other. That was fantastic. Well, first of all, of course, coming towards the target, we've been going quite a way now. And don't forget this, that if it's a 10-hour journey, you've been going for 5 hours and watching everything. And each one has been doing his job, So you're not exactly as bright and alert, but you suddenly sharpen up. You suddenly, if there's there's no real tiredness by then, you're young, but it's still 5 hours of hardish work. And so in my case, my work would be listening, as I mentioned, and then watching for fighters predominantly. I also had to watch for collisions. That was a sad thing to think of, but you had to, particularly over the North Sea, where they're all coming back together or going out together, and where we were milling around the first turning point at the beginning of the journey, which was near Reading. And the stream would be very close. So you had to watch for, and they did happen, and quite a few people were killed in collisions. So one's watching that, and one's watching predominantly the point you mentioned for fighters and so on. And when you're, it all depends, I don't know how far, but it must be probably an hour or 3/4 of an hour. You see that the pathfinders and perhaps the beginning of the stream have started to hit the target. So you see the targets blazing, and you know where it's going, and you don't need a navigator's set then to be able to find the target. And so it's then, funnily enough, I suppose, just for a second then I get this fear. But it's no longer than a second, because you've been so keen on watching everything, and then the next second after your fear, whatever it is, you're watching again. And I think I mentioned this purely because we discussed fear. But it's momentary. because you realize that from that second onwards, when you're seeing it and you're really within its orbit, that means the target, that from in, over and out, you've got to be total observation thick. Meaning, I don't mean thick up here, I mean you had to be as keen as possible in outlook. And so the first thing you're thinking of are the fighters. So as you go in, you're keen on the fighters all the way. The boys in the front start taking over more as we get near the target, of course, and the navigator leading you in. And you can hear your mates over the intercom, and you can hear the navigator and pilot taking over, and then the bomber and the pilot. So all this time you're spending your time, I'm speaking purely of me, not the rest of the crew, in searching for aircraft. And there's not much point in searching for anti-aircraft because they'll shoot it up anyway, so you just keep your fingers crossed for that. You search a bit, depends on the place, whether they've got many searchlights. Some places have more than others. So you search for that, because that is something you've got to divert from. So you'll search, and by this time you're practically there. And then, of course, it's simply a two-man act. It's the pilot and the bomber. And by that time, you can almost feel the warmth of the target, you know. And you're going over, and of course, you're tending to look up there more because you're conscious of this silhouette business. And as they go over the target, then the boys are completely taking over the aircraft. And it's left, left, right, right, steady, steady, steady. And then bombs away, and you just go up like this. It's amazing. I mean, you go up like from one floor to the 10th floor in the car park. You boom! It's absolutely bloody fun. No lift does it like it, you know. But 14,000 pounds just hanging on you, and suddenly goes, you know, boom, and up you are like this. And then the next second, you know, whatever the pilot says, something all sorts, you know, fuck off. Oh, sorry, I'll bugger off your, all sorts of things. But it's go, you see. So you corkscrew. And then when they corkscrew, the first thing is to hang on for grim death, because he's corkscrewing like this, you see, which is a standard. It's a standard regulation. And of course, it's ultra effective. It's one thing that's never had to change. From early days to the end of the war, it never changed, because it's first class, because you go left and then you're going right and then you're dropping and then you're rising. You're doing everything to counteract. And it's hell to try to combat that as an air gunner or as a fighter trying to bring you down. Very, very difficult. So that goes on for quite a while until you're fairly sure that you're away from the target area. And also there's no one on your tail. There might be someone. We were just out and the one came on our tail. Well, that was different. And I mean, that's a different story. But boom, 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 and you're out again. So coming back to your feelings, no fear at all as you're going near to it. You've got too much to do. And when you dive out of it, again, it's too much to do. You have no time to. I think the reason if you had no time to think of fear is probably there. But you haven't got any time. And I really found it all exciting. I must say grudgingly that it was bloody exciting. The whole lot was exciting. And even watching for these guys was exciting, you know. When you actually saw one as we did, or saw three, it's slightly different when they're on your tail. But no, and even then it was exciting. I didn't feel any fear then. It was really exciting. So does that answer your question? Well, as I told you, and this is the most famous part of any raid, because when you're sweating bricks, because you're absolutely dead, you're straight, and you've got to go over the target, and you've got to be absolutely spot on. And the bomb aimer is in charge, and the pilot does his wish. Hence, Lanc does his wish, and he says left, left, steady, right, right, steady, left, left, steady, 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 left, left, steady, and then the joke is back a bit, which of course you can never do. Sorry about that, but that is the joke of Bomber Command. Back a bit, and you know that is a moment. That is a moment of all times, I think.